is just how powerful and cool it was to be able to experience the making of it with a Muslim. It felt like coming together in some, in a way that like we both really identified as the other and like finding power in each other's otherness in a way. And it felt like, I keep using the word power because I think it's apropos, but there was sort of an empowerment to the project of Iman and I cooking together this pork simulacrum.
That was Leah Koenig, author of The Jewish Cookbook. You are listening to Tapestry on CBC Radio 1. We'll be back after a short break for local news.
Good afternoon, it's 1:30. I'm Robert Zimmerman. This is CBC Radio 1. In the news, Saanich police say a teenager that was struck by a vehicle in a marked crosswalk Monday night has now died. The driver stayed at the scene and is cooperating. The teen's name has not been released. BC's ombudsperson has issued a sharply critical report of how the city of Penticton dealt with a vulnerable 60-year-old woman. Jay Chalk says the city sold the woman's home over a property tax bill of $10,000. It says the woman had the funds to pay and just needed some help. Chalk says the city sold her home for $150,000 when it was assessed at $420,000. And property owners here in Vancouver will be paying higher taxes next year. Despite a pledge to keep taxes below 5%, councillors passed a hike of 6.35%. Average condo owners will pay an extra $72 a year. Detached homeowners will pay on average about $178 more. And looking at the forecast for Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley, mainly sunny this afternoon, windy in some areas with highs around 8, a low of 2 and partly cloudy tonight. Cloudy again tomorrow with a slight chance of showers. Looking further ahead, rain Friday, showers Saturday with a chance of showers again Sunday and Monday. Right now in the Fraser Valley, it's partly cloudy and 6, and it's partly cloudy and 7 degrees in Metro Vancouver.
I'm Mary Hines. This is Tapestry. Is that a lullaby I hear? I think Eamon Ismail might be back to answer a couple more questions. So, if something that is not meat comes from no pig and yet can be considered a kind of pork, in some philosophical or ethereal or spiritual way, then what is pork? Is it literally the meat or is it something else?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, when we're thinking about it the way that we're thinking about it as Muslims, pork isn't meat anymore. It's more of either like a test or a metric or a grade. It's a way of worshiping in its own way too, It brings us closer to God, having to avoid this thing and being mindful of it. What it tastes like and what it smells like is a little besides the point when we're thinking about all of the reasons why we are so afraid of trying like the impossible pork, right? It's not really to do with what it might make us feel about pork in the end, really. It's just that having to avoid pork and getting really good at it, mind you, in a place like America where it's kind of like an art form of having to avoid it and knowing what to do and live your life like that and avoid it. It makes us better at being mindful human beings in so many other ways too, right? It teaches us moderation, it teaches us patience, it teaches us to respect other people's property and their space. You don't find Muslims going into shopping markets where they shop and finding the pork products and tossing them in the trash, We're sort of conditioned to accept that this is what other people are going to eat. And for them, it's going to sustain them in a very good and healthy way, whatever. But for us, to make us Muslims and to maintain and strengthen that connection that we have with our spiritual community, with this spiritual being who we believe is watching over us and gave us purpose. Under those circumstances, it's not about the pig. It's not about the meat. It's not about watching the movie Babe and being disgusted or something like that. It's all about connecting ourselves to this greater purpose that God gave us. Everything that we believe as Muslims, that some other people might think of as like hard, right? Like this test, or like fasting Ramadan the whole month and not eating during the sunlight. Wow, that must be so hard. Not even water, bro, that's crazy. Why do you do that to yourself? Well, there's so much to gain, and any Muslim you ask about Ramadan is going to tell you it's their favorite part of the year because of all of what you get from sacrificing those things. So in the same way, it's not about the product, it's not about the pig, it's about everything around it that teaches us to be better humans.
If pork then is less about the meat and more about, to use your phrase, a greater purpose, does eating something like Impossible Pork mess with that in some way?
Yeah, I mean, it can. I mean, think of it this way, right? If avoiding pork